Good afternoon. This is basically a lecture for my colleagues at Sathi and also for my students, nephews, nieces, and so forth. But anyone who's interested in improving their happiness levels is welcome to watch this. Why me? Because my reason to exist, the purpose of my life really is to assist you in becoming happier. I am basically a happiness worker, and I have been so for most of my life. So, happiness. How do you increase it? How do you improve it? To improve your happiness levels, you need to improve and increase valuable things and non-things in your life. Things as in touchable things that you can touch, a pencil and so forth. Non-things is basically feelings and so on and so forth. So I will just call them value from here on for the sake of this video. So you have to increase the value in your life. Valuable available to you, value owned by you, value available to you, value within your ecosystem, value surrounding you. So you basically, if you are able to improve that, increase that value, your happiness level increases. Now, how so? Let's look at an example. Suppose one of your primary values is money, wealth. So when your wealth or income or money increases, so does your happiness. For somebody else, it might be, political power. So for them, as their political power increases, so does their happiness. Now, to increase happiness, we have hypothesized that you have to increase the value that you have in your life. Of course, you have to recognize and realize what value mix you have in your life, because nobody lives by only one value. Everyone has various things that they value and various non-things that they value. So you have to figure out what your value mix is. Perhaps some other day we'll go there. But today, presuming that you understand your value mix to a reasonable level, we have to figure out how you can increase that, because that's going to increase your happiness levels, as we have hypothesized and taken as an axiom. We will also see as we go on that this is really not unreasonable to make this hypothesis. Now, to increase a specific value, you must have the power to do that. And what's a power? The definition of power is the ability to do work, the capacity to make a change, to make things happen, the ability to do work, to do things, to make things happen. That is what is power. Now, there are various kinds of power, and those powers are linked to various kinds of values. So now let's look at those powers and try and see how they are linked to those. So I define those powers as a group of 3 and a group of 2. So total 5. A group of 3, group of 2. Why 2 different groups? Because these 3 powers, they become lesser when you share them. When you share them, when you spread them, they become thinner. And these 2, when you spread them, they become thicker. That is, you become richer in those powers, in those values, as you share them. In these, you become poorer. So, which are these 3? Coercive power. The power to be able to coerce, coerce, or force someone into doing something. This is the power that the conquerors and the kings and the emperors used to have. Alexander, for example, had that. So he went and forced everyone to his will. Many other similar kings and conquerors did. Today, that in civilized world, that is limited to the state. Individuals are not allowed to have that power. That power rests with the state and the arms of the state, like the police, the military, and so on and so forth. Now, some people, of course, do not agree with that, and they want to extend their own coercive power. They want to be able to force other people to their will. Those people, we consider them gundas today, gunda, or gangsters. You know, someone who comes up with a gun, puts it on your head, and makes you do things that you don't want to do. When a state does it, it's acceptable. When a person does it, it's unacceptable. So, the value associated with it today cannot really be increased or improved unless you want to be a gunda. But to do that, you have to fight against the might of the state. And you generally lose at some other point. You may also be an important person within the state apparatus, and you may want to use that as you wish. But then what happens is, at some point in time, you get overthrown. Let's take the case of, say, Muammar Gaddafi. Now, he was a functionary of the state who sort of owned the state. He was a dictator. Now, what happened was that at some point in time, he was thrown out. And then he finally found himself hiding in a culvert where he was caught, where he was found and was dragged out of that and was essentially lynched in a very bad way. That happens with almost anyone who decides that his or her primary value is coercive power. So that's something which is not likely to be a successful play if you want to really increase your happiness and keep it at a reasonably high level and live your life out for a reasonable, indefinite period of time, as long as you can drag it out. So coercive power is not really it. Then what is the second one? The second one is organizational power. So how does that work? So say somebody becomes the President of United States, the Prime Minister of India, the President of Sathi. Now what happens is that, or for example, a director in say Hewlett Packard. Now what happens is that all these people get their value from that position within that organization. They try to maximize that as much as possible. However, at some point, when the organization becomes less powerful, or the person cannot stay on with the organization anymore for any number of reasons, or cannot hold on to or improve that position within the organization, one is not able to enjoy that power, thereby not able to enhance that value, organizational value, thereby not derive much happiness out of that. So what happens? Just like we discussed the case of Muammar Gaddafi, where he exercised coercive power over a large number of people, he created that many rivals and enemies who eventually threw him away, threw him out of that position. Similar things happen when your primary play, your primary value is organizational position that you have, because you have that many rivals, maybe not enemies, but you do have rivals. And even your organization has so many rivals. So for example, you become the Prime Minister of India because you are the number one person within a particular political party. Now that political party may lose mind share of the voters, or you may lose mind share within the party, and therefore you may not remain the Prime Minister for as long as you want to be. Similarly, the President of United States, that person can be president only for 2 terms. So that's 4 years into 2, 8 years. After that, you still have your life. But then you essentially are glamorized nobody. Essentially, you're that. Nobody really cares about you anymore. So what happens to the power that you enjoy? It reduces a great deal. As a result, the value that you enjoy reduces a great deal. As a result of that, the happiness that you enjoy reduces a great deal. And why it happens? Because in both these cases, so far that we have discussed, you have so many rivals and sometimes even enemies, and therefore you cannot really stay at the top for that long. Yes, you may be very powerful, but how long? Imagine you are the alpha male in a pride of lions. Someday you're going to meet another lion who's going to dethrone you, and then you wouldn't even find food to eat because you'll be old and tired and maybe even handicapped by then, and you don't have your pride hunting for you. Similarly, you become a retired president, nobody values you, and so you are all the time fighting and being on your toes, but the end is given, end is known, end is understood. Of course, end of the life is also understood, but your power, your happiness should stay with you at least as long as you're alive, right? So in coercive power, you lose it long before you lose your life. So also in organizational power, which is the third one. The third one is economic or accumulative power. Now that one, you might enjoy your riches for a longer time. But even there, it is still a zero-sum game. Because suppose I have 1 crore today and that's enough for me to live out my life on. But suppose I choose to share it. I suppose I have 9 nephews that I want to share it with, share that equally with. So I'll have 10 lakhs and each of them will have 10 lakhs. And how long will the 10 lakh keep me happy? Not very long. My happiness levels are going to come down. Therefore, these 3 powers, because they are essentially a zero-sum game, if it increases for somebody, it reduces for somebody else, you have rivals and enemies and people who want to pull you down. And therefore, it becomes very difficult to hold on to these powers, thereby to hold on to that value which you have. And remember, these are only some values. You don't have to live by any of these 3 values only. There are other values as well which you can live by. So let's look at now these 2. So let's look at this one. That's the power of knowledge. Now, power of knowledge, apart from the fact that it is a power, so let's first see, is it really a power? So we as species are really enjoying power because of our knowledge. Today we know how to make this computer that I am speaking to you on. Therefore, we are able to share that knowledge. Therefore, I gain my knowledge from others and others gain knowledge from me. let's look at even a different power, let's say the coercive power, that emerges out of having a gun. Now, the gun itself was invented or designed out of human knowledge. Because we have guns, the alpha male in African savanna cannot eat me, or even a Royal Bengal tiger cannot eat me. Why? Because my brethren have those guns. With that, they have essentially controlled the population of lions and tigers to the extent that now they're dependent on us to keep their species to keep their species from going extinct. The same is true of even bacteria and viruses. Now, they still trouble us a lot, but we do have a lot of little guns which help us get rid of them. So, all this comes out of knowledge, right? The good thing about knowledge is it's not a zero-sum game. The more I spread it, the more sum total of human knowledge increases, and more than that, my own knowledge increases as well. So let's say, for example, I don't know and I don't understand quantum mechanics. You do. You explain it to me. Now what happens? I was, let's say, 10% or 6% knowledge in terms of quantum mechanics. As a result of your teaching that to me, I rise up to a 50 or 60% level. What happens? Of course, the benefit is that I also know that, but the benefit to you is that you were earlier at 80% level knowledge of quantum mechanics. Because of the doubts that I may have raised, you would have studied something and raised that level. At the very least, you had to revise that. Even just the act of explaining it to me is a kind of a revision. So your knowledge went up in some measure, or it didn't go down. Further, while reading up on that or telling me, some doubts would have occurred to you. You would have gone back and sorted those out. So what happens? Not just sum total of human knowledge, but the sum total of our ecosystem, the ecosystem in which you and I exist, has increased. The knowledge has increased. We have become more powerful. You have become more powerful. I have become more powerful. Not a zero-sum game. Further, you have not created a rival or an enemy. You have created a co-worker. You have created a friend. You have created a person who cooperates with you. So if one of your primary powers is knowledge, the value that you derive out of that can keep on increasing. At the very least, it won't go down. Therefore, the happiness will keep on increasing or not go down. So that's your fourth power. What is the fifth power? The fifth power is that of love. The more love you give me, the more love I give you. Simple. Let's say you love me greatly. You love me at a level of, it's stupid to quantify love, but let's say I'm doing it. Out of 100, you are at the level of 85, love for me. Now, even if I dislike you, at some point I'm going to start liking you. And 5%, 10%, 15%, 20%, who knows? I might even reach 99% or 100%, even more than the love that you gave me. So, either way, the sum total of human love and compassion and cooperation and bonding is increasing. The same thing within the ecosystem is increasing. The same thing is increasing for you and for me. Again, not a zero-sum game. The more you spread, the thicker it becomes. So that's what is good about love as a power and love as a value. Now let me also say something else about love. Love is even more important for our species. It has played an even greater role in bringing our species up to this level of power, even in the other things. Now, definitely, a Royal Bengal tiger or a lion, male lion, head of a pride, has a lot more coercive power than any of us individually. But why does he have less power than us? Why is he now dependent on us for his survival? That's because we got together. That is because we have a bonding. That is because we love each other. Of course, X person loves his own family more than Y person whom he has never met. But at some point, his love also spreads to that Y person. That love to that Y person comes before his love for a Royal Bengal tiger or a lion on African savanna. If a lion is eating a man that I have never seen before, is about to eat him, what do you think I'll do? I'll do my damnedest to scare that lion away. And even a person who doesn't like other people, he would most likely do that. Yeah, I may not want to kill that lion because there are already so few lions, but I can surely find a way, using my knowledge, to scare him away and save the life of this person who I do not know from Adam. So, this love, this coming together is what that has allowed us to share our stories, share our knowledge, share our abilities, and which is why you have 7.3 billion human beings on this earth and a few thousand tigers and a few thousand lions. So, despite them being much more powerful in a coercive situation. So allow me to submit that these two powers, apart from being